Hey guys, it's Cyrus of Chaos. Today my friend Barnaby Halliwell and I are going to be talking about some statistics that we think could be significant predictors of how likely a fencer is to win world championships. For a number of reasons that will be explained shortly, we will keep this discussion focused on the top 10 fencers. Even though Kim Jong-won is currently 9th in the world, he is not going to world championships this year. As such, he will largely be excluded from this conversation. So why have we chosen to only look at the top 10 fencers? Well, if we look at the winners of world championships and the Olympics going back to 2004, for all the years that we have available seeding data for men's sabre, every world championship and Olympic gold medal was won by someone seeded in the top 10, except in 2014 when Kovalev won seeded 16 in the world. But since he spent a good amount of the year out of commission because he was sick with pneumonia, or recovering from being sick with pneumonia, I don't feel that this is really a good representation of his actual rank at the time of World Championships that year, so we're still just going to be looking at the top 10. Another reason for this decision is that the current top 10 have combined to win 7 of the 8 World Cups and Grand Prix this season, other than the first cup, which was won by Ha Han-sol from Korea. But in years past, the first World Cup of the season has typically been a little bit random, so we're still just going to focus on the top 10. And with all that out of the way, let's get to the data of the top 10 fencers. So up first, we have number 1 in the world, Eli Dershowitz. Going into World Championships this year, Eli is rated number 1 in the world, ahead of Oh Sang-guk by 20 points. He finished second last year in Wuxi, behind Kim Jong-won, who, as we previously discussed, will not be attending World Championships this year. I did not include this in the statistics on the right side of the page, but Kim had a 3-1 record against Eli in the last 2 seasons, so the fact that he's not here really helps Eli's chances a lot. Other than against Hartung, Eli either has an even or winning record with every one of the other top 10 fencers this season, and an overall record of 6-3 against other top 10 fencers, which is really good. The only people on this list who he has a negative lifetime record against are Apathy at 1-2 and Ibragimov at 0-3. Although he and Camille haven't fenced since 2014, so that information should be taken with a grain of salt. 2 bold checks in his pro column are the fact that he is undefeated against Salagi with a lifetime record of 3-0 against him, and he has a 5-1 record against Kiratoli, with wins over both of those fencers this season, and a win over Salagi at World Championships last year. Eli has been remarkably consistent this season, finishing in or above the top 8 in almost every single tournament he attended, with the exception of the first World Cup of the season in Algeria, which seemed to cause problems for a lot of people. Even if he doesn't win World Championships, I would definitely expect to see him in the top 8.
Oh Sang-guk has also been having an amazing season. He's had 2 under-par losses this year, in the last 16 and last 32, to fencers rated outside the top 16. However, he's medalled at all 6 other Grade A and Grand Prix World Cups he attended, as well as winning the Asian Championships and University Games a couple of weeks ago. His worst loss of the season was at the last Grand Prix of the year against Lokhanov. He seemed to really beat Oh with how tall he was. If these two do fence again, I think it'll be really interesting to see how Oh adjusts his distance against the Russian. Oh also has a positive or even season record against every single fencer in the top 10 except for Dershowitz, who lost to 15-14 at the World Cup that Eli went on to win. He also has a combined total of 9 wins to 3 losses against other top 10 fencers this year, the best record of everyone in the top 10. The people who tend to give him the most trouble are Eli Dershowitz, Max Hartung and Aaron Salagi. All in all, Oh is a very strong pick to win the Worlds this year.
Next, at number 3, we have Max Hartung. He has also been having one hell of a season. Other than his top 32 loss to teammate Matthias Sabre in Algeria, the first World Cup of the season, and a semi-final loss to Montano in Italy, he has only lost the top 10 fencers this season and has beaten Eli in both of their encounters so far this year. Other than Luca Curatoli, who he has lost twice to in his career 15-14, he also has a positive or winning season record against everyone, and only has a lifetime losing record against Apathy, who he beat 15-14 in their last encounter at European Championships. Max also has an incredible 66% win rate against other top 10 fencers this season. He's won 2 World Cups and has medaled at 4 more. Another interesting data point is that Max has the worst loss of anyone in the top 10, a 15-2 loss to O in the semifinals of the Seoul Grand Prix. So if he does fence O at Worlds, I'm sure he'll be gunning to fix that mistake.
Aaron Salagi's season has been a little inconsistent. He's had 2 last 32 losses to people outside the top 16, and 3 last 16 losses, 2 of which to Reshetnikov. Yet, has also had 3 losses in World Cup finals, narrowly missing out on gold 15-14 twice. Salagi keeps getting silver medals, and I'm sure he is hungry to change that, especially after the contentious way he lost in the finals of Madrid to Hartung. His biggest obstacle to winning Worlds is Dershowitz, who he has never scored more than 12 points against, but he also goes back and forth with O and Hartung, so for these matchups it will really depend on how everyone is feeling on the day of the competition.
Coming into this season seeded 5th is Kamil Ibragimov. Even though he's seeded 5th, this has been kind of a disappointing season by his standards. 3 losses to Italians in the top 32, a loss to Dolnicianu in the 64, and 4 losses in the 8 to top 10 fencers. Ibragimov has gotten no World Cup medals this season. He finally picked one up at European Championships, where he ultimately fell to his teammate Veniamin Reshetnikov in the finals. His major matchup strengths are an undefeated record against Eli, although, like I said before, the two haven't fenced since 2014, and he has a very strong 4-1 record against Luca Curatoli, although the two haven't fenced this season. He also has a losing record against O, 2-4 all-time, and 2 losses this season, so O is another obstacle in his path to becoming world champion.
Luca Curatoli has also had an interesting season. He won the World Cup in his home country, beating teammate Aldo Montano in the final, but has had a loss to Yagodko in the 64, a loss to Deci in the 32, and the rest of his losses to Dershowitz and Salagi, who are his biggest obstacles on the path to world champion. He has had a 0-win to 8-loss record against Salagi and a 1-win to 5-loss record against Dershowitz. If Curatoli wants to win this year, he'll need to avoid them in the bracket or radically rethink his strategy for these opponents. Also worth noting is the fact that he's had a 1-win to 5-loss record against the other top tenors this season.
Coming in at 7th is Kim Jun-ho. Kim only has 1 even record this year against anyone in the top 10, the rest are all negative. He also only has a winning all-time record against Salagi, and that was only one 15-14 bout. With a 2-6 record against the top 10 this season and only 2 medal finishes, with all other tournaments ending in the top 16 or earlier, I would say his odds of medaling at Worlds are a dice roll, but his odds of winning are a bit of a long shot.
Bullard has had a great run recently. Other than a 64 loss to Pellegrini in Budapest this season, he has been able to make the last 16 in every tournament he has gone to, including the last 8 twice, and even won his first World Cup this year. This is definitely the right time to get hot, and if he continues to ride the momentum of his confidence from the last World Cup, who knows what could happen. His biggest 2 roadblocks will be O and Salagi, both of whom he has a 0 wins to 2 loss record against this year, and a losing matchup across his career. In fact, he and Salagi have actually fenced 16 times. Salagi leads 11-5. But because Salagi hasn't been having a very consistent season, and historically hasn't done very well at Worlds, I think O is a much bigger threat to Apathy winning the title. Other than those two, he is either even or has a positive win record against everyone else he has fenced in the top 10, including Dershowitz, who he beat very convincingly last time. It'll definitely be very interesting to see what happens if the two of them fence again.
Gu is a pale shadow of the fencer he once was. Once a terrifying person to see in your bracket, Gu rarely makes it past the 16 anymore and didn't medal at any World Cups this season. He's only fenced the top 10 or 4 times this season, and of those, he has only beaten his teammate Kim Jun-ho. He has the second worst loss of any fencer this season, a 15-4 loss to Tabiru Dolnicianu in Cairo, and lost to 4 people seated outside the top 16. Gu would have to have a miracle day to win Worlds, but he's had miracle days before, so we'll see what happens. Let's take a quick look at the winners of Worlds and the Olympics since 2004. Of all the data I was able to find since 2004, almost all the winners were somewhere between the 5th seed and the 10th seed, with one fencer winning with a seeding of 16th, which was Kovalev, and we already discussed why that isn't a great indication of what his actual ranking was at the time, and one fencer winning as the number 1 seed in the world, which was Aldo Montano in the 2004 Olympics. If you average all the seeds together, you get a nice, even number 8 seed. It's also interesting to note that no winner of any World Championships or Olympics during this time frame has ever won more than 1 World Cup during the season. In fact, everyone has either won 1 or 0. All of this data together points directly towards Apathy. He's currently seated 8th in the world, between the sweet spots of 5 and 10, check. He has won 1 World Cup this season, check. And he's fencing very hot right now. If I was going based on what I see and feel, I would say O or Hartung have the best chances of winning. But if I'm going purely from the statistical data, I would put my money on Apathy. Who do you think will win Worlds? Let us know in the comments. Also, follow both of us on Instagram. Links in the video description. Thanks for watching.